Lucky Lefty podcast. As you see, the Onora boys are in the building. Left is on the road. We are brought to you by Onora Whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. That's premium American whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. And if you drink, by all means, make sure you do so.
Responsibly.
Always on CFB Nation, that is presented by Twisted Tea. It's the Lucky Lefty podcast available. YouTube channel, smash the thumb. We appreciate it. Get the audio edibles every day, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Open the Misguided Passion right here on CFB Nation. It's the Lucky Lefty podcast. We spin it different. Left, we'll get to some things, and then we have Howard Griffith joining us for the second half of the show. Number one, Left, Tennessee State, Notre Dame. What might Tennessee State present that might be more challenging than Navy was able to present to Notre Dame?
They're going to play in space. They're going to play in space. They're going to try to get their skilled players matched up with our skilled players on defense, especially our linebackers. They're a more traditional offense than what Navy is. Obviously, we're not going to see a lot of triple option from TSU. But the good thing is that it's another opportunity for our defense in its second year under Al Golden to look more mature, to look more comfortable, to look like they can add some things based off of last year and what was given. And those guys in those same positions can grow and also be able to make some bigger plays. So I'm expecting TSU to come out and challenge our linebackers, challenge our secondary more. I think the front seven last week did a good job for the most part of handling the run. But this week is going to be a more of a team effort on defense. Offensively, I think it's just another opportunity to put 40-plus points on the board because we need to show that on a consistent basis against all levels, not just the teams that we're supposed to win against, but the teams that, some might consider will be close, right? We want to be able to consistently put 50 on the board, whether it's Sam Houston State or whether it's against Tulane. So I think offensively the goal doesn't change. Defensively, you want to see the guys be more alive in a traditional offense. The things that we talked about last season, which were deficiencies like tackling open space, making plays behind the line of scrimmage, not letting the running back have 500 yards, that's the backup. Once we accomplish those against a team that is going to give us more of a traditional look, I think we can feel better. We already felt good after the Navy game, but we'll feel even better, coming off of a game that is more like what we'll see the rest of the season.
All right, as always, we give you Malik's 3 keys to victory, brought to you by Onora Whiskey. Left, go ahead and give us the 3 keys to a dub against Eddie George and his Tennessee State Titans.
Oh man, the 3 keys. Number 1 is starting fast. I thought we did a really good job last year. You said you got to start the game with 7 points if we get on offense, and we did just that, and we continued to let it roll afterwards. So starting fast doesn't change this week. A lot of it is too because we don't want to be the team to start slow against a team that isn't supposed to compete with us. So we want to be able to make college football know that, yeah, TSU, they're doing better and all that, but this is still Notre Dame. They're running into a chainsaw, and they're going to have a hard time being able to deal with that when we're putting points on the board early and often. So starting fast is the first one. The second one, I want to see some turnovers on defense. This is a team, TSU, that's going to give us opportunities because they know what game and who they're playing against. So they're going to try to take shots and take some stabs down the field. But for our secondary and our linebackers, it's another chance to get over 3 turnovers on a team that's going to give us opportunities for it. This is not a team that's going to be stingy and try to hold the ball all game. I feel like they're going to try to go out swinging. And so Ben Morrison's got to come alive. Zaire Watts got to come alive. Our secondary, DJ Brown, has to have a better day, and I think he'll have a lot more action this week. So turnovers, I want to see us have 3+ turnovers this week. I think that's a huge key to the game, to getting the team out early, get them out of whack early. By the fourth quarter, we put our fresh young legs in, and they can get some experience heading into week 4 that we all want to be healthy and have the depth for. So that's the second key. Have 3 turnovers and get them out the game early so we can work our younger guys in towards the end like last week. And then our final key to the game is just finishing strong. We want to see all cylinders, especially the special teams. The kicking unit. Matter of fact, let's just say the third key is the kicking unit. I don't want to see no more missed field goals. I saw the NFL kicker Dan Carlson. What did he kick? A 68, and it could have went 5-10 yards longer, right down the middle. That's the type of impressive stuff we need to be showing. And I think even more so, Marcus Freeman, knowing that we should win this game, should purposefully put his special team kicking unit out there to get some points if we need it. Hopefully it's all PATs, but if we got to get some range, let's try some range, because we got to make up for missing all them kicks in Ireland.
Left, it's crazy. We had Blake Root last year. He struggled a little bit. I went to his pro day. He put on an absolute show. And I remember coming back the next day like, Blake Root is going to be on an NFL team.
That's right.
And he wins the job with the New Orleans Saints.
And
I'm like, where was this consistency last year?
That's right.
So maybe it's something about being the kicker for Notre Dame. Maybe it is.
See, not for Justin Yoon, though. Chicago kid.
Not for Justin Yoon. You are correct.
Justin Yoon, he know how to knock him down. Because it went from Kyle Brenza, who was okay. He was okay.
Kyle was solid.
Kyle
Brenza was solid.
But when Yoon came in, he gave us what I thought we would have kicking you for a minute.
Yes.
But and then it had a huge drop off. It's like we stopped recruiting altogether. So kicking is my third for sure, because it was such a glaring weakness in the link right there. It was just too obvious. And it better be right by the time we get to game 4, because we might have some close ones where if we don't punch it in, we got to leave with 3.
Man.
I don't want to be upset at home, us shanking right and left on these field goals against Ohio State when we need them. Because Marcus Freeman, he'll give you the face. You'll miss an open field, be like, how we missed that? He gonna show the expression on the missed kick. And I think we all give the same expressions to Marcus Freeman. We're looking around like, I know we just didn't miss that. Easy kick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's where we at.
Lucky Lefty Podcast. So, those are the 3 keys brought to you by Left. Left, tell the fans the most ridiculous question you asked me when you popped on before we started today. You saw me pop on the screen, and what did you ask?
I said, is that a LSU jersey?
And I said, how disrespectful. He was like, it's the colors. I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
This could be a Michael Floyd Creighton Durham jersey from Minnesota. These are their colors too.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Hey, you're right.
No, this is an Ahmad Rashad Vikings jersey, dude. So,
ooh-wee.
Come on, man. LSU, man.
I was like, you got a little Kelly left in the tank?
Come on, bro. That's disrespectful. So disrespectful. Lucky Lefty Podcast. So, give me what's a couple of things you're looking for? Let me play this clip for you. I actually played it on yesterday's show, and I thought it was very telling. I'm starting to like Jared Parker more and more, Left. And Jared Parker, he was talking about the young wide receivers, the O-line, and everybody progressing. And this is what he said about getting better.
We just, I hate to say we just want those guys, as every position, just to continue to expect more from themselves and grow. It was not a heavy conflict game, if you will, to line of scrimmage, so there's going to be weeks that we're going to get heavy conflict to line of scrimmage, and those are the ones where we're going to have our guys prepared, because those days are coming, and we're just putting ourselves in a position where we want our guys to compete every rep to win whatever it is in the block and pass phase.
I love that. He said heavy conflict is coming.
Oh, it's coming.
So when you look at the early part of the schedule, they have the right mindset of being efficient and playing the right way and doing the right thing. I watched college football last night and it was just slop.
Florida looked trash.
Slop.
Florida looked trash. I was like, what team is this?
Bro, we're gonna have Howard Griffith on, and I sat up there and laughed at Nebraska and Minnesota.
Nebraska.
Just laugh. Like this is like the worst football this is hard.
It's like they didn't practice or nothing.
At all.
I knew it was bad. I knew it was bad for Nebraska when their tight end got arrested from stealing tobacco products from the smoke shop. Eric Gilbert. This crazy fool. I don't know if he didn't know that they got cameras in Nebraska, but he walks past the front of it suspiciously. And within minutes, same shirt, now he wrapped up like he ISIS in the back.
Right.
You the biggest, strongest black dude in Nebraska. And you addicted to vaping that hard? Yeah, I knew it was all bad when they got foolishness like that at Nebraska's program. So I'm not surprised that they look sloppy on the field. But it just shows you some of these coaches now.
Your boy Jess Sims was looking. Hey. As an Illinois fan, I was sitting there watching both of those teams like,
oh, man.
Yep, we can mark W's right here. The W that week.
Yeah, you're already on the schedule marking.
Yes. It's a W that week. Like, absolutely. I mean, every game, even in North Carolina State, watching North Carolina State when we play next against Connecticut, it's like
they don't look ready. Like, all
right. Yeah. You have to be impressed. It was against Navy. So let's do that. Like we said, Brady Quinn overreacted to the one game against Navy.
Did he?
Like,
Brady Quinn about to
like, relax. But the one thing I will say, and this goes back, if you remember what Jared Parker said the first day of practice, he said, I had a team that knew how to line up. They knew the playbook. They ran the plays. We had no mistakes, and we had no procedural penalties. The first day of spring practice.
That's really lucky when you're
lets you know, and as a new OC, that gives you
huge
a lot
weight
of
off your shoulders. You spend the first spring and first 2 weeks of fall camp making sure you can line up right and guys know the plays. So you don't even get into the meat and potatoes of your offense until the week before the game.
Yeah.
Because you spend so much time, especially as a new offense coordinator, so much time trying to make sure guys know what the formations are. And the coach obviously thinks it's easy, but the players, it just takes a lot of reps, a lot of practice. So Jared Parker stepped into a big situation because he knows that this team isn't necessarily new.
Yeah.
But this team can be rebranded with the same characters that I know that I've been plotting and making my notes through the season on what we should come back to if I had a chance to do.
Yeah.
He's just going through all his notes and being like, well, I know I got this, and I can add this. Something that you're not going to find with new offensive coordinators going to new programs. Think about a guy like defensive coordinator at Ohio State, Jim Knowles. He had left the Oklahoma State's defense, seniors, all those guys playing at tip-top shape, I mean, he raised those kids essentially, and they were doing all type of things on defense. They were leading the country. They had great players that were seniors and young guys, and the defense looked unstoppable. A year later, goes to a whole new program, a program that's bona fide, not just some slapstick program, but a program that's bona fide, an elite program, a program that was better than his own.
Yeah.
And you just see how hard it is to even get the best guys on the same page your first year as an OC or a DC. So even Jim knows is experiencing that. Yeah, I mean, I put a lot of work in at Oklahoma State. That's why we end up looking that great towards the end. And repeating that process is something that takes time. So for Jared Parker, he cuts all that out because he was essentially there going through the growing pains, but just in the back row. So now he's out here like, I'm laying out what I really wanted to do the whole time. And it just so happens we get an experienced guy under center that can manage all the chaos and put ease in the guys' hearts that are out there that may be younger, like the freshmen. How easy is it for Jaden Grayhouse to run out there with a fifth-year quarterback? Where he like, hell, even if I don't know, I can look over and Sam just calm, cool, and collected. Tell me what I got. No, I'm going to probably get the ball. He's not going to shy away from me. He's not sticking on one guy, right? So it works. It can work for a young guy to step in when you have a guy like Sam Hartman under center. So to be able to do all of that and put it together in the 1 year that he's been able to do it, it's just it's a perfect time and everything coming together, just like how Joe Brady and Joe Burrow came to that second year. And everything just looked easy. All the offensive plays, they were like, oh, man, they cook it. I think we'll find a lot of the similar success with Sam Hartman and Jared Parker throughout the season because of that.
I was shocked that Deion Coley admitted in the press conference. Matter of fact, let me play it for you, Left. When I heard Deion Coley say this, I said, oh, wow. I mean, it's to be expected, but I was shocked to hear him say it.
Yeah, definitely this year, there's no route that's dead. That's one thing we stress in every single meeting is everybody runs the route to win. You never know who's going to get the ball. It may be designed to go to one person, but, everybody has the possibility of getting the ball with Sam.
He said wide receivers are running routes differently this year because Sam Hartman's the quarterback. We might actually get the ball.
Sam Hartman might actually read the field.
Like, we're running with more intention this year because we all feel like we might get the ball. That's crazy.
That's the perfect feeling.
That's crazy. But I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, you can't blame the kid for not Braden Lindsey for not getting off the line every time when he looking over and we getting sacked. We throwing it to the check down. We ain't seeing him wide open. He's like, man, I'm just out here getting cardio. I'm not about to have no attention to detail on these routes. And then the time we do get it, we overthrow him, underthrow him, missing. Now, I mean, you look at that, even the spring game. You got Salerno catching touchdowns in the back of the end zone. You got Deion Coley making catches on the sideline. It's a variety show. Just like how Undisputed is. I mean, you got Skip having Michael Irvin on one day, Keyshawn Johnson, Richard Sherman. Then he pulling Sam Acho and Emmanuel Acho. I mean, what is it? FS1 is First Take now? So I know Stephen A. feel a way about that. They done recruited the Avengers to get over at Undisputed. And that's no different. That's a variety show. If you don't like one dude, you're going to have Michael Irvin on Friday, Richard Sherman on the day, Rachel Nichols will pop up on there, Emmanuel Acho come out of nowhere. You would think that ESPN done made a whole trade pick for Shannon Sharp.
Right.
They done traded 8 players on ESPN for just Shannon Sharp. So
it's like the Herschel Walker. It's like the Herschel Walker trade, like Dallas State, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, but on a positive note for Sam, he gonna give you a little bit of everybody, and the guys know it. And when the guys know it, the offense gets better naturally. How do they not? a guy that wasn't the third option on the route on a passing concept is actually running to win,
Man.
Sam might escape the pocket and find him. Because Sam's eyes is downfield, something we haven't been accustomed to in quite some time. But that's our own fault for not developing our in-house talent. That's our own fault. But this is great because this is where we take advantage, make sure those younger guys take notes, because it will be a sort of a rebuilding process, because Deion Coley is going to feel this way next year about Kenny Minchie or CJ Carr, even if they're great.
Well, we're going to talk about what Urban Meyer had to say, because honestly, Urban Meyer said what we said earlier this spring, so I didn't have a problem with it. But special guest, big brother to both of us, we welcome from the Big Ten Network, Howard Griffith, to the Lucky Lefty podcast. What's up, big bro?
What's up, fellas? You see what's going on in the back, right? You see what's going on in the back.
That's right.
So, I keep the love going. I keep the love going.
That's right.
Yo, we still say that is the best Shamrock jersey.
Yeah, this thing is dope.
That's one of the best Shamrock jerseys that
top
they produce.
Top two for sure.
Bro, they come up with some stuff, man. I got to give it to ND. They come up with some very creative things with jerseys, T-shirts, just everything about them. You guys know that.
So let me ask, were you shocked when you knew that they had Under Armour, Nike, and Adidas vying for their services? Did you expect Notre Dame to stay with Under Armour in that relationship?
I'm not surprised, right? Because this is a long-lasting relationship that they've had. And you think about Notre Dame, they're about relationships. I mean, it's not always about all the money. It's about the relationships and how they can continue to be which they are, a unique brand. And Under Armour gives them that. I mean, you can talk about Nike and you can talk about the Nike schools, the elite schools that they have, but that forces you to be lumped in, with the Ohio States of the world, so I don't think that's where they would necessarily want to be. They want to be their own entity. And I think Under Armour, I mean, we can complain about the shoes all we want to. The kids can complain about them too. But it is just, it's one of those relationships that just continues to show it's not always about all the money that's out there that's being offered.
We're definitely their Drake if this was a music label.
Yes.
I can be with that.
If we were Universal, we would be Drake.
Love it.
Hey, bro, I watched that Big Ten West matchup last night. I went to the schedule and marked down 2 W's for our boys.
2 W's for IU?
I went to our Illinois schedule and was like, okay, that's a W. That's another dub. Bro, it was ugly. And you guys do let me tell you something. You and Coach DiNardo, you guys do such a fabulous job with those camp reports. And honestly, Minnesota and Nebraska were 2 of the best shows. I was intrigued by both, and I really thought these are 2 programs that can really make some noise this year. And I was really disappointed with what I saw the product.
I'd say this. I'd say both programs obviously have some issues. You look at Minnesota, they are totally changing who they are, who they've been the last couple of years. When you think about running the ball 60% of the time on first downs, they just didn't do that last night, and it didn't seem like they were even trying to do that. So I think they're trying to find their way. Either they were going against a scheme that they didn't think they were going to have much success with, or they just decided that this is not who they're going to be. But I think they're going to have to ultimately be able to find some balance with that run game, because the offensive line, they've got to be able to show up. And on the other side, you think about this Nebraska team, right? I think one of the things we were looking for was that they would have some discipline instilled in them. And I'm not saying that they don't, but we saw some of the same mistakes and some of the same penalties that they were doing a year ago. And once again, I think they're 2-14 in 1-score games, something like that. It's crazy. So, they had the game in their hands and really couldn't close it out. But you think about this, 4 turnovers on the road, 7 penalties. you're not going to win many games playing like that on the road.
I was surprised. I looked around, and that was the best thing about Notre Dame and the way they played against Navy. It was, in my opinion, it was a very clean game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the only thing I'm looking for against Tennessee State tomorrow. Just a clean,
efficient.
I don't care about the score, efficient, clean,
because this is a game
injury-free.
about optics, how
Yeah.
it looks. Score, we're not too worried about, you know. But if we play the efficient way that we know we can, I'm feeling good about Ohio State. I'll put the money down because this will be the most efficient and confident offensive unit we've had in a long time. Going into a game where we're not going to hold the ball all day. We're going to run it until we get to the 1-inch line, then try to throw it. This might be a game where we'll say, all right, Ohio State, we'll take the challenge. We might try to score 28 points in the first half. Can you catch up? Now, Sam Hartman might be like, can you catch up Kyle McCord? Because you splitting time. You splitting time with Devin Brown.
This is I think this is, you're right. Get through tomorrow's game clean, which I expect them to be able to do, talking about Notre Dame, and really get fired up for that next matchup that they have when they have an opportunity to go against Ohio State. Because right now, I had Ohio State after our camp visits. I had them third in the East behind Michigan, Penn State, and then I had Ohio State. And it's not that I think that they can't beat those two teams. I just felt like the questions that Ohio State still has right now, they've got questions at quarterback. The offensive line has not been as dominant as they need to be. We talk about offensive lines. You talk about the Joe Morrow Award, right? Ohio State has never, I shouldn't say never, they weren't a finalist last year, and it seemed like Illinois was a finalist. So you start to look at things like that, giving up the big plays on the defensive side of the football. They've got to find a way to slow things down over there. And so when I look at them, there are a lot of questions, but is this team talented? Absolutely. If you make mistakes against them, will they be able to take advantage of it? Yeah, and you mentioned the quarterback. When we saw them, they still hadn't really separated themselves. It's
not going to happen by week 4.
No, it's not. And I tell you, the other thing that's going to happen, though, I also say this about the quarterbacks. This is the same way Justin Fields looked. He was struggling in the spring, struggled in the summer. This is historically under Ryan Day, when you see these new quarterbacks coming into Ohio State, they struggle. That first couple of Strauss did too in his first couple of weeks. People wanted to bench him. So I think they'll figure it out, but it is a tall task when you look at just how much talent they have in that wide receiver room. People want to see that the ball is coming out, and I don't know that you're going to be able to get all those answers, at least early in the season.
They're definitely going to be under some pressure because you got to feed Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
But you're going to be feeding him with a baby spoon because he got a starter that's never been in there before. If Marvin Harrison Jr. was on Notre Dame, we probably win the championship. I'll probably put the money down right now. Right now. Oh, we got what?
Man, that dude is.
So,
that dude's incredible.
Let me tell you something, man. I am personally attached to this Ohio State team emotionally because of our guy Carnell Tate and what he has had to go through recently with the loss of his mother. And Howard, you're here in Chicago. You know all the crazy stuff that's going on now. Like I tell people all these armed robberies happening late at night, and we're not talking about the roughest neighborhoods. They're happening in like pristine North,
Streeterville,
River North, Bucktown, and it is really crazy right now. And I'm happy that they found the two guys that were responsible for it, and I spoke to him, and it took a little weight off of his shoulders, but just a lot to still deal with the family back here in Chicago and his siblings. So I'm in a rock and a hard place, man, because I really want Cardell. I've heard great things about him in camp and how he's bust on the scene as a true freshman. When you were there, what did you hear about Cardell and
Hey, man, I'm gonna tell you what, man. When And this really didn't start to happen, I think, until Ryan Day got there and Brian Hartline as well started coaching that group. You see these guys, if you watch Ohio State's wide receivers, going back a few years, you don't see guys attack the football with their hands the way these guys do. The separation, their route running ability is incredible. You know, I think one of the reasons we talk so much about Marvin Harrison Jr., and they talk about him being a top 5, top 2 pick in this upcoming draft, is that this kid is 6'3", 6'4", and he runs routes like he's 5'11". I mean, he can sink his hips. You don't know when he's getting ready to go into a break. You don't know any of that when he's trying to run a comeback. He runs like, you know, he's under 6 foot. So he really has great body control. And then you talk about being able to go up and just attack the football in the air. And these dudes, I mean, you watch this group, they go get it with their hands and they're able to keep it out of the way from the defenders. And Tate is the same way. And what's going to be crazy is, you think about this, he's the number 3 receiver for all practical purposes. But you take him anywhere else in the country, he's probably the number 1, except for maybe a couple places. But that wide receiver room is going to be incredible. You're going to see them motion people around. You got to believe they're going to move Harrison around a lot just to be able to make sure they can get easy throws to him, get the confidence going with the quarterback.
I feel a lot of screens they're going to have
a lot
to
of
run.
that stuff. There's going to be a lot of that stuff until they get comfortable, because, you know, they're really not going to be tested, you know, really when they play against Indiana. Indiana's going to put up a good fight and they'll give them, but they're just not deep enough. So you would expect Ohio State to be able to really control the game, but those receivers and allow those quarterbacks to kind of settle in to where they need to be.
So we go to the Notre Dame freshman receivers that showed well against Navy, but of course, Jared Parker says they didn't have a lot of conflict at the line of scrimmage as they move further into the schedule. That conflict is on the way.
Yes.
And they know that. But just the fact that development of wide receivers, freshmen getting on the field early at Notre Dame, something new that's coming under Marcus Freeman and Jared Parker as an OC. Just talk about that. Talk about what you can expect and the importance, because like Deion Colsey said, when you have a quarterback like Sam Hartman, it might make that development of those young wide receivers a whole lot better to transition than previous years when you had guys like Tyler Buckner in that position, Drew Pine, that were kind of troublesome at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I'd say this. I think if you're going to recruit at the very highest level, which is where Notre Dame wants to be, right? So now you're talking about, you talk about the Alabamas, you talk about Ohio State, right? You talk about what's happening in Georgia, Clemson to a certain extent, USC. To me, one of the main things you have to be able to do is you have to find ways to get, particularly, you know, at those skill positions and even in the D-line linebackers, but you have to find a way to get these guys, you know, 5 to 10 reps every game. And I'm talking about your young players, your true freshmen that are these elite guys. If they're ready to go, you got to find a way to get them on the field. And, you know, I learned this from Urban Meyer. And he said, because this is what you have to be able to do. Because first of all, right now, particularly, right, the transfer portal is right there. So if I'm a young guy that wants to play and I'm unhappy with what's going on, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going right to the office. Dude, you're not even getting me involved. Why am I staying here? So you're forcing the coach's hands. But I think when you can say, hey, listen, we're going to get you 5 to 10 plays every game, not during garbage time, but every game, the cumulative balance of that is by the time you get to the end of the season, after the midway point as well, not only have you developed confidence in those young players, they have confidence, but their teammates believe that they can go make plays because they've seen them do it in critical times, not just in garbage times. So I think that's what you have to be able to do when you're recruiting at a high level. You have to find a way to get these players on the field, meaningful reps. Don't tell me anything about the scheme that they don't understand the scheme and they don't understand that. Because to me, when I hear coaches say that, that tells me you're not coaching. because figure it out. It's not the scheme. Figure out how you make sure that this player understands the scheme and understands the package. That's what the coach has to be able to do, and that's how you compete at the highest levels.
You know what stood out to me? You understand everything that happened with Notre Dame and Andy Ludwig in the offseason. I'm watching Utah, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about the quarterback position and the lack of development that existed at Notre Dame over the years. And I'm looking at Andy Ludwig, and I say to myself, you know what? He doesn't produce NFL quarterbacks. But gosh darn it, every quarterback that comes through that system can play in his system.
Yeah.
Meaning if a quarterback goes down, look, Ryzen went down in the Rose Bowl 2 years ago in the third quarter. Barnes, who started last night, came in that Rose Bowl and led them right down the field for a touchdown. And I said to myself, you know what? It's about whether or not you can develop guys to play in your system. Now, you're not trying to develop stars so much if you're a college coach. You're trying to get guys to play in your system. That's the main thing. And so when you talk about the quarterback position and you hear Urban Meyer, put out a little dig at Notre Dame a couple of days ago saying, I'm shocked that Notre Dame has to go to the portal. We know it's a new era. And hey, they had to go get Jack Cohn, right? Then they had to come back and go get Sam Hartman. But they do have Kenny Minchie, which is a great pickup in the 23 class. They have CJ Carr, who's a top kid in the 24 class. And then they're on Deuce Knight from down in Tennessee right now, who's in the 25 class. So they're starting to change that trend. How do you feel about this quarterback situation? Because now you see Alabama had to go to the portal to get a quarterback. And you're seeing other top-notch programs having to go to the portal. Have things changed to where no program can just stick to recruiting when it comes to the quarterback situation?
Yeah, I think it's hard to do. I think there are a couple things that work, right? I think if you're going for that elite quarterback that's out there, you better be able to identify him early in the process. You have to start those relationships early in the process, because if you wait to their junior summer, forget it. You're not even in the game. You don't have a chance. And that's one of the things that happens. But on the flip side of that, you now can go into the portal and say, you know what? I like this kid over here. Why don't you come over here and play for us? Matter of fact, we got some NIL money for you, or collective, whichever side of the fence you're on with that. We got something over here for you, because now you know that kid can actually play in big games. So you should still be able to recruit the young people into because it's a delicate balance. I mean, if you're going to recruit the high level guys and you're all of a sudden they don't pan out, and then you're immediately going to go to the portal and grab a guy that's going to come in and be with you for 8 months or so, that's going to affect your recruiting. It's going to have an effect on your recruiting, the high school kids. But again, they have to start those relationships very early, identifying those players. But if you're close, which Notre Dame is going to be every year, right? They're going to be every year. They're going to be in the middle of a conversation. The difference becomes: do you have a guy under center or in the shotgun that is a difference maker? And when you talk about being able to spread the field, get your young people the football, get your veterans the ball, whatever you need to do, you got to go make that happen. Because I think one of the great things about Notre Dame is you can't lose. Right. It's the pressure is immense, right? You can't lose. There's no conference championship. And sure, you can get away. You lose a game early and you could play your way back in it because of the scheduling. But at its core, you can't lose. So you have to have that guy under center that makes a difference for you, that can extend plays and make things happen.
It's interesting you say that, because I think about Sam Hartman coming in. There was a moment in the fourth quarter. Sam Hartman's playing. And I pointed out to a couple of people. I said, Sam Hartman the moment hit him. He was on the sideline and he looked up, and you could see him just looking around, taking everything in like, yo, I'm over in Ireland. And this stadium is packed.
Yep.
this ain't Wake Forest.
Yeah.
And he took in the moment like, okay, this is a little bit different. And I just think, I'm gonna be honest, I think the portal is going to explode even more with the expansion. With more teams feeling like they have a possibility of making it to the college football playoff, I think teams are going to be even more aggressive, going after quarterbacks and going after skilled talent at other schools. And the portal we think it's crazy now with players being left and not finding teams. I think it's going to be even more aggressive as we move forward.
Well, the interesting thing, you talk about the players not being able to find teams. I think everybody wants to go play at a place that's better than the place that they're leaving, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's necessarily looking to go down. But I can tell you this, Minnesota talked about it. Maryland, when I was there, they talked about it. They talked about going and getting guys from lower levels. Two reasons, right? They know that they've proven that they can play. Now they want to be able to prove that they can play on the big stage. And then the appreciation aspect of it, right? So now all of a sudden you got a guy from Western Michigan that gets that all of a sudden now at Minnesota playing in big games, comes up with a huge catch last night. And they're appreciative of all the things that go along with being a part of a better program that has more resources than the place you just left. So when you talk about, Sam Hartman, you talk about stepping up and stepping onto the big stage and one of the biggest stages of all college football. Every time he walks on the field, his name is going to be the first one out of people's mouths. When you talk leading up to the week, how's he going to play? How's he adjusting? This is what it's about. And, you need to be poised. It takes time to learn that. The Ohio State quarterbacks are going through that right now. Right. It's a big thing, not just to be the starting quarterback, but to be the starting quarterback at a program that's expected to compete for championships is a totally different level and a totally, more pressure than I think a lot of people, really understand. So will the portal continue to explode? Absolutely. Because listen, man, there were reports out there that, there were some schools that were offering $5 million to one of the best receivers in the country to come join their program. I mean, you have all kinds of things. People know that it's free agency is really what it is. I mean, if you need that quarterback, if you need that receiver, you need that left tackle, you can go into the portal and you can find them. And that person will automatically give you the ability to really add some more firepower to your program. And Michigan is a key example. When you look 2 years in a row, they won the Joe Moore Award, and the last 2 years, including the last 3 years now, they've gone into the portal and been able to bring a guy in who's been a huge plus for them on the offensive line.
Absolutely. Once again, Lucky Lefty Podcast. Big brother Howard Griffith joins us, Big Ten Network. As you can see, he's repping Notre Dame with the Shamrock jersey behind him. But don't get it twisted. That dude is the real deal, because if you look over his right shoulder, he's showing off with that sports ending. You see that sports ending.
I was just part of a team. They let me be on the team.
So, bro, we would be remiss if two Illinois alums didn't dedicate a little bit of time to Brett Bielema and the squad down in Champaign. Yeah. Now, I've been hearing some things from little birdies down there that one of our Chicago kids, Malik Elsie, has been putting in work. And, you guys stop by there, and we know the defensive line is going to be pretty good. And I'm hearing that we got a sophomore cornerback that might make people forget about Mr. Witherspoon in a year or two. And I'm trying not to get too excited. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying not to get out over my skis. That game last night made me feel real good. Yes. It made me feel real good. But I'll tell you, I was feeling good. And then that darn Cade McNamara went to Iowa, and I said, all right. This West is going to be a little tougher. And then, of course, you see Wisconsin change staff and change direction. How do you think this Big Ten West is going to play out in Illinois and Brett Bielema? What steps do they need to take to improve?
First of all, I think the West truly is wide open. Majority of the teams there are breaking in new quarterbacks. The only team that's probably not in it right now is Northwestern, but that's because they got a lot of other things going on as well. But when you look at Illinois right now, I think they've got a capable quarterback that's going to be able to make a lot of plays for them. You mentioned Elsley. I think the sky is the limit. They're going to put as much on his plate as he can handle. And part of being able to handle that is also being, away from the field. If you're going to be the star, you're going to also have to, you got to put the work in everywhere, not just at the football building. And I'm not trying to say that he's not doing that right now, but when true freshmen come to campus, there's a lot of things pulling at them. So, I think the sky's the limit.
There's a lot more to do. There's a lot more to do on that campus than it was when we were down there.
Oh, yeah. I think that, the sky's the limit for him. I think he can have a huge year. But again, it's going to be about him, really being able to dial in and be focused on what he needs to do on the field. They arguably, when you look at their defensive line, they got one of the best defensive line in college football. They can rush the passer. They're going to be dominant against the run. So this will be a good test for them when they go against Toledo, because Toledo's offensive line, it's a good offensive line. They're not pushovers. So they're going to try to run the ball at Illinois, but Illinois should have enough up front to be able to control that game from that respect. But I think the sky's the limit for them. I think they're obviously, to me, one of the best teams in the West, and they should be right in the middle of it. But again, I think it'll come down to what quarterback play is like. I'm going to tell you, just in Indiana at Purdue, this Hudson Carr kid that's from Texas is the real deal. That dude can sling it now.
Yeah.
And he can run. So he's going to be able to keep a lot of plays alive, unlike they were able to do last year. But, they're going to throw it around. It's still with Graham Harrell calling the offense over there, it's going to be wide open. It's going to be scary to watch. You talk about Wisconsin, the same thing, right? They've got a new quarterback that's coming in, but they still have Allen there. And you want to run, spread out offense that they're going to throw it around a lot. But what's scary when you think about that with them is now you're talking about Allen, and that extra man in the box really isn't in the box. He's going to be a little bit further away. So you're talking about a lot of one-on-one plays that defenders are going to have to make versus Allen. And I don't know how many of those they're going to win. So he's going to have a lot of space to run when you look at what this air raid offense can possibly turn into.
A few more moments, but I got Howard Griffith. I don't want to hear nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. Let me get out of my professional mode. I don't want to hear nothing else about James Franklin if he don't get it done this year. Bro, nothing else. This is it. This is it. I'm tired of hearing about Penn State and James Franklin and the job he's doing. Man, look. You're stacked. You're stacked. You're stacked this year.
Man.
Put up or shut up. That's it. Either you prove that you're an elite coach coming off that Rose Bowl, either you prove you're an elite coach, or we have to tell the truth about you.
Yeah, and I think the one of the things that's tough about his narrative, right, is that he's got to go against Ohio State and Michigan every year. And when Ohio State and Michigan are clicking on all cylinders, you still got to be able to outcoach him and outplay him. So he's in position.
Think about it, though.
He's in position.
That's the issue. They are always in position, especially against Ohio State.
Yeah.
They had Ohio State in the fourth quarter at home last year.
Yeah. They're in position. And right now, I mean, they probably have their best offensive line that they've had since we've been covering them.
And left tackle is an absolute.
Yeah. He is, he's that guy. Aller, the quarterback, is I think he has a chance to be special too. Another one of those young players that was forced into getting a lot of meaningful minutes in a lot of games, and also started some games on the road, started the game on the road. So, he's a guy that can make plays. I think they helped themselves in the transfer portal at the wide receiver spot. Defensively, man. This could be their best defense that they have. Manny Diaz is, you talk about having the second year in a system, and he has some better players than he had last year. And this Abdul Carter, and they talk about the guys going back to wearing number 11. man, this dude is special, man. He is special, and he's going to wreak havoc in the not only in the run game but in the pass game too. You know, he doesn't have the size of LeVar Arrington, but he is. I mean, the quickness that he has, the ability to play in coverage and rush the passer. Yeah, I mean, he's a special player.
Yeah,
but you're right. They got to get it done.
They have to get it done. And I know Drew Aller, you know, he's a new quarterback, but lean on the running game, make a few plays. Like you said, the defense, they have King in the secondary. Yeah. They're always solid in the secondary. Look, it's put up a shut up time. It really is. Yeah. Especially with you have Michigan and JJ McCarthy, you know, coming in. Styles made fights. That's the beautiful thing about that trio. Yeah. I think Michigan is a tough matchup for Penn State. Yeah, because of their style. Yep. And then Penn State is a tough matchup for Ohio State, and it makes for 3 different games when they face each other. Yeah. We'll see who comes out of that East. I think it's going to be very intriguing.
It really is, because you mentioned the styles. You know, Ohio State and Penn State are built similarly. But I think Ohio State's further along on the defensive side, but they were built to, you know, go against Ohio State is how this team was constructed. Yeah. Michigan is a different animal, man. They're playing at they're playing the game at a different level right now. And when you can control the line of scrimmage, that's half the battle. Now, you know, they'll have a couple of different head coaches in the first 3 games, but not that it's going to really matter. You know, it's a storyline, but I don't think it's going to be much of anything, because at the end of the day, Harbaugh is with the team during the week, and he's not there on Saturdays. I'm not going to minimize that, but you know, it still is a big deal. And I think, you know, having Shaun Moore out as well, the offensive line coach and the offensive coordinator, will be a big part of it, because he's done a great job with that O-line since he's gotten there. So they've got some work to do, but these are some games that Michigan should be able to take care of pretty easily.
Stepping outside of the Big Ten, I'm intrigued, because you know this is a year of transition, moving to expansion next year in the CFP. Yep. The transfer portal, the additions of USC, UCLA to the Big Ten. Look, it's Armageddon right now. College football is in such a volatile place. We don't know how it's going to look this year. We don't know how it's going to look next year. What do you think at the end of this year? What do you think is going to be the overall narrative for what is a college football season of chaos right now, as I see it?
Yeah, I think we're moving closer and closer to it being very clear the haves and have-nots. You think about the addition, you know, also of Washington, who's playing really well, Oregon to the Big Ten. You look at, you know, just this morning, the ACC has decided to go with Cal and Stanford and SMU, and I don't think that people may not understand this. SMU has decided for the next 9 years, I believe, we will not take any revenue from the conference. No revenue that they're going to be receiving. So that tells you 2 things, right? They've got some deep pockets down there at SMU, right? They got some deep pockets. And you look at Cal and Stanford as well. I think they're only going to be getting 30% of it. So I think what's happened is Florida State, Clemson have really won that fight, and you could throw Miami into that as well, because they wanted more of the pie. It was similar to the Big 12 when Texas was getting all the money. And they were like, well, we're the draw, Texas and Oklahoma, we want to get paid. So they're going to a revenue sharing model in the ACC, which is going to incentivize teams, you'll essentially get a bonus if you get to the ACC championship game. You make the playoffs. There are going to be different bonuses there. But this is it's crazy, man. It's just, and I know they talk about the student athletes and you talk about money and all the things that are going on, and it's just so much money that's out there that you can argue with Harbaugh. You can like him or dislike him, but he continues to talk about revenue sharing with players, and I think that's going to be the next step, right? Is these TV deals are going to continue to get larger, because I think the other thing that's important too, right? We can talk about, okay, you're going to get 20 teams, you're going to go to 22, 24 teams. At some point, there's diminished returns. You can have 24 teams, but at some point that network wants to know, well, what are we making out of this?
What are we making out of this? Yeah.
How are we making? What are we going to make some money here? Yeah. And I think we're pretty close right now. I think Fox would tell you that they're very close. And schools will as well, because think about this: for them to vote, if we look at Big Ten schools or the SEC, to bring more teams in means you have to share more of your revenue that you're getting right now. It doesn't automatically mean that your network partners are throwing more money into the pot. You may be losing some money or having to give up some money to bring some other programs in. And quite frankly, there's probably at this point maybe one program that's out there that everybody would say yay to, but that's going to bring in more revenue, help bring in the bottom line. And that's not the deal that Notre Dame wants or Notre Dame needs. So,
no,
they're going to continue to have their independence and move forward. And everyone else out there is really scrambling, trying to find out how they are going to continue to be able to garner some of this network money that's out there. But it's not a lot left after you look at what the Big Ten and SEC have done at this point, and now you have the ACC. So some of these other conferences that are still intact can't expect to get some of the revenue that's out there right now.
He's the best in the business. That's why we have him on. He's Howard Griffith. You mentioned, on the way out, you talk about Notre Dame staying independent.
Yeah.
Jack Swarbrick leaves, Pete Bavacqua comes in, and you talk about the haves and the have-nots. When Notre Dame finally start acting like a have, because they are a have, but when it comes to the NIL space and other things that are happening, they kind of act like, oh, well, we really don't want to get into it. Eventually, Pete Bavacqua coming on with his experience with the connection to the networks and what he's done with the PGA Tour.
Interesting, right? Interesting person to be the next athletic director, right?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
You can, but I'll tell you the other thing that's happening here, guys. Ohio State is having a problem, right? Oregon is having, all these schools are having problems with NIL. And part of the problem is there's some schools out there that are recruiting players and then making the promises, they're giving them that NIL money.
Yes.
And that's not really the way it was supposed to be. And so you'll see guys that'll go from, a Notre Dame to Oregon to a USC, they want to be shown the money. And, that's not the way it should have been set up. And it wasn't, because it's the Wild Wild West right now. So if you have the means, you have to get involved in the game if that's what you want to do. And, it's not pretty. It really isn't. I mean, because you have young people that say, okay, well, how much are you going to pay me? I mean, that's where the conversation started. What can you offer me? And it's not where this game and NIL was supposed to be. Again, it's probably the collective that's really being the issue. And then the other thing is this. I would say this, like Ohio State, if you look in the Big Ten Conference, as well as Ohio State has done in all athletics, their football building may be one of the worst in the conference. Probably the only one that's not, but it's better than maybe Rutgers, because they're still in a stadium.
Wait a minute. Wait. Say that again. I want to make sure we get clarity with this.
This their indoor facility at Ohio State is one of the worst in the conference. It really is. I mean, they've got bells and whistles, but it's only so much. This is an old building. They're landlocked.
Gotcha.
So their challenge is we tear this thing down. Where are we going? But I think the other challenge is this. I mean, the donors are like, well, we need to make sure that you getting all the players you're getting, right? We would rather see the money go there than to facilities. And I think that's the next step. Donors are sitting there saying, well, shoot, we can continue to put money into NIL deals and do it that way so we can ensure that we keep the best players, or we can go out and get the players, as opposed to, being able to put up, new facilities. Because like I said, Rutgers, and that's because they're in a stadium. Wisconsin probably because they're in a stadium. But you look at Illinois, you look at Purdue, you look at Iowa, you look at Northwestern. All of these facilities are light years ahead of where Ohio State is. And again, Ohio State's still getting the players and they're winning the games outside of the Michigan game. They're winning and recruiting at a high level. So their mindset could very easily be, well, why do we need to go spend $200-300 million on an indoor facility or a new facility? Is it really going to help us? What's it going to help us do? And we've seen that it really doesn't help. It helps the day-to-day for the student athletes that are on campus, the coaches, but it's not going to change the trajectory of what your program is and how your program is going to operate, and whether or not you're going to be able to get the number 1 or the number 2 running back. They're not coming because of your facilities.
Man, I'm telling you, I see choppy waters ahead, and I see why Jack, Gene, and these veteran ADs, I see why they're saying, you know what? It's time for me to spend more time with the family. I understand now, because like what you just pointed out, this is a trick, man. When you're having to deal with the money, the amount of money, the changes and rules, and you have to deal with the alumni and the head coaches.
This is a much different world than I think you mentioned those two have had to deal with, and quite frankly want to deal with, most likely at this particular point in their careers.
Absolutely. Once again, Lucky Lefty Podcast, we thank Howard Griffin from the Big Ten Network for joining us. Are you on the pregame show?
Yeah, I'm on tailgate. I'm on tailgate tomorrow, so we'll get things going. Excited to really, see what Ohio State, because they got so many questions. I really, because it's a team I really like, but they've got a lot of questions. Looking forward to seeing some of that. Looking forward to seeing Purdue open up. There are a lot of good storylines in the conference this year, but I think the biggest thing is that the West is wide open. And I think if you look at the East, you got Michigan, Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, and then you got Maryland and Michigan State who's going to move into that 4th and 5th spot. And then Indiana is sitting there, and Rutgers is sitting there as well, trying to really put a good season together.
Hey, stay safe, big bro. You and the family, man. We appreciate you guys, and tell my boy open up that pipeline from Chicago down 57.
Hey, that's what he's there for.
That's right.
Things happen.
That's right.
Guys, so
that's
we're gonna see if he can get stuff going.
Tap in on all the Catholic schools.
Yeah, there you
Ignatius, Arnold, Henwick, straight down.
Get them down there.
Absolutely, man.
First step is getting them on campus. They get them on campus, they got to show.
Yeah. I was telling some people, I'm like, man, can we get Justin Scott, Darian Dupree? I know they committed to other places, but
hey, I mean, you couldn't have told me Scott wasn't going to Notre Dame.
Oh well, that's once again, we're gonna try to steer away from things that are gonna bring the fan base down. Please don't.
I'm gonna tell you what. Hey, Coach Rudolph is the real deal. I told you this when they hired an offensive line coach.
You did.
That dude is the real deal, and I think he's going to be a huge. He already has been. He's going to continue to be a huge addition for Notre Dame.
I think he will show dividends against Ohio State, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because he knows what he's doing. Because he's faced them. Howard Griffin, we're gonna have you back on, bro. I'm gonna tap in with you this weekend too.
Okay. All right. Sounds good, man. Y'all be good.
All right. Once again, Howard Griffin, Big Ten Network, right here on the Lucky Lefty Podcast. You can watch him on the Big Ten Network pregame shows. tomorrow morning with Nicole Arbach and Dave Refson, if I'm not mistaken. Fabulous show. Let me tell you something, man. That was a great interview. We spanned Notre Dame, from Navy and going up against Ohio State and Jared Parker and the NIL and big time in the West of the Big Ten and James Franklin and Ohio State. And very interesting what he said about the facility, the indoor facility at Ohio State. I would not have thought that. I would not have thought that I knew it was an older building, but I did not expect it to be that far behind. So Ohio State, obviously, like you said, these big time programs. And last night, Jaden Rashada, right, who, because of Drew Pine being injured, gets the start as a true freshman. He is a perfect example of the failures of NIL. I mean, he was at Miami. The relationship NIL fell through. He was at Florida. Man, could Florida have used him last night? Relationship NIL fell through. He goes back. He is up at Arizona State. Arizona State gets a 24-21 win, and he stars with 2 touchdowns last night as a true freshman. So that is today's football, right? Dante Moore and what's going on with him at UCLA and him not getting what he was promised, supposedly, from UCLA. That is absolutely something that I think Jack Swarbrick and Gene Smith, they see the writing on the wall. And they say to themselves, we don't want any part of this, man. This is about to get sloppy. And that's why when Jack Swarbrick did his interview prior to the Navy game, he just flat out admitted and said he was part of the problem, that they ruined college football. They ruined college football. They made some bad decisions over the last 4 or 5 years trying to save the older model, and it just made things worse instead of just admitting where things were evolving to. So Malik gave us his 3 keys. He gave me his prediction. Malik has Notre Dame 52, Tennessee State 17. Notre Dame 52, Tennessee State 17. And I have a clean game. I have Notre Dame 45-3. Notre Dame 45-3 against Tennessee State. Should be a great game. Great weekend of football. I'm looking forward to seeing these 3 players. There are 3 players I'm looking forward to watching the most this weekend. One is Shedeur Sanders. I want to see if he can be that anchor and that rock for that Colorado program at the quarterback position. Very interested in watching that young man. Then I'm interested in watching both quarterbacks from LSU and Florida State. Both quarterbacks from Florida State and LSU. I really think both of those young men have an opportunity to have seasons that were far greater than what they had last year. And Malik loves Jaden Daniels and really thinks he can elevate LSU to good things this year. And last but not least, man, I'm looking forward to seeing Drake May go up against South Carolina. I really am. Lucky Lefty Podcast. Great show. Thank you to Howard Griffith. Thank you to Left. He's down in Bowling Green on the road, getting ready to cover Western Kentucky. And on CBS Sports tomorrow. Yes, the Western Kentucky game. And we thank you guys. You know what time it is.
Petticoat. Petticoat Junction.
It's time to get petty.
Oh, we did a good job executing.
Are you upset with something?
And fire up the Petticoat Junction train.
I just don't like you.
You don't?
No.
What is today's petty historic? Petty Junction.
Petty Junction, Pettiest Story today, brought to you by Onora Whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com, that premium American whiskey at OnoraWhiskey.com. Yo, Jerry Reinsdorf gave the absolute worst press conference to introduce a new general manager on yesterday. Forget the fact that he said he put a list together of candidates, but he only interviewed one of those people. Not only did he say that, he said his reason for hiring from within is because he wanted to win next year and didn't want to waste a year of someone having to get to know the organization. Jerry Reinsdorf. It's 2023. Don't you know that every major league organization has scouted the entire organization of every team? This is not the 70s and the 80s. What scouts are doing everything by paperwork and holding these big folders. Every other team in Major League Baseball knows your minor league system from start to finish. They know the players. They've scouted the players. Good gracious, man. Save us. If there are sports gods that have grace, save us, White Sox fans. Please. Save us. We're in bad shape. And then throw Minnesota and Wisconsin, Minnesota and Nebraska on the petty train. Because that was awful football. Awful football. Special teams at Florida. How do you have two number 3s on the field at the same time? How? How? Just awful. Awful. Just so much sloppy football last night. I hope Saturday is a little bit different in week 1. Thank you, guys. Lock in. We'll see you guys for the post-game show. As I said before, CBS Sports Network, Malik on the call. Who is, matter of fact, let me see who Western Kentucky is playing, so I can get it to you guys. That's right, they're playing South Florida. Western Kentucky is playing South Florida tomorrow. Malik has the call on CBS Sports. All right. So, for Left and our special guest, Howard Griffith, we hope you enjoyed the show. CFB Nation, brought to you by Twisted Tea. Have a great Friday. Enjoy the game tomorrow. We spin it different. You should do it too.